World War II, the war that changed everything, Episode 2, The Fall of Europe. The war had begun, but Europe was about to face a storm unlike any it had ever seen. In just months, nations that had once dominated the world were reduced to rubble. Armies fell, cities burned, and millions of lives were uprooted. From the frozen plains of Poland to the streets of Paris, the speed and ferocity of Germany's attacks stunned the world. In this episode, we explore 4 defining moments that show how Europe collapsed under a force of lightning-fast armies and how courage and resistance began to shine even in the darkest hours. 1. Blitzkrieg. Lightning War Strike's Germany's strategy was terrifyingly simple and devastatingly effective. They called it Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. Speed, surprise, and overwhelming coordination allowed German forces to shatter defensive lines before armies could react. Poland fell within weeks. Cities were occupied, railways and communication lines seized, and civilians fled in panic. Belgium and the Netherlands followed, their armies overwhelmed by mechanized units and relentless airstrikes. Europe's military powers, still recovering from the First World War, were unprepared for this new kind of warfare. Blitzkrieg was not just a military tactic, it was a demonstration of absolute psychological dominance. It showed the world that a war could be won not just with numbers, but with precision, coordination, and fear. 2. France collapses. By June 1940, France, a nation long considered the heart of European power, had surrendered. Paris fell without a fight. Museums, streets, and squares, once bustling with life, were now under occupation. The fall of France sent shockwaves across the world. For Britain, it was more than a loss of a continental ally, it was a stark warning. Alone on an island, Britain faced Hitler's war machine, and the threat of invasion loomed large. Yet even in despair, small acts of courage emerged. French soldiers and citizens organized resistance cells, laying the groundwork for the movements that would haunt the occupiers for years to come. 3. The Battle of Britain, courage in the skies. The skies over England became a battlefield. The Luftwaffe unleashed wave after wave of bombers, intending to crush morale and pave the way for invasion. But the Royal Air Force refused to yield. Radar technology, ingenuity, and the relentless courage of pilots and ground crews allowed Britain to withstand the onslaught. This was the first major Allied victory of the war, proof that even against a seemingly unstoppable force, determination and strategy could prevail. The Battle of Britain became a symbol of resilience, a shining moment when ordinary people faced extraordinary danger and refused to surrender. 4. The Eastern threat looms. The Soviet Union, scarred from past wars and political upheavals, fortified its borders, aware that Hitler's ambitions would eventually reach its lands. By 1941, plans were being made for a massive invasion that would shake the world and open the Eastern Front, a front that would become the largest and bloodiest theater of war in history. Europe was falling, but the war was far from over. Across the continent, resistance movements began to organize, nations began to prepare, and the stage was set for a conflict that would engulf the entire world. In less than a year, the landscape of Europe had changed forever. Nations fell, cities burned, millions of lives were shattered. The fall of Europe was swift, and it set the stage for battles that would decide the fate of the world. From the ashes of surrender and occupation, courage and resistance would emerge. But the war was only beginning. This was the fall of Europe. Subscribe for Episode 3, Pearl Harbor and the Pacific Awakens. How a quiet Sunday morning turned into a global conflict, pulling the United States into the war.